Hi, my name is Krish Hariharan. I'm from the Fusion Applications A team. I'm here today to talk about the resilient enterprise, in particular about disaster recovery planning that helps you understand your business, understand your revenue model, and find out what of that should be protected so that you can sustain failures and recover from those without an impact to your revenue or the brand. Disaster recovery planning is a critical part of a resilient enterprise. And in order to understand what disaster recovery planning is, you have to understand what disaster recovery is. Why do you need disaster recovery planning for your enterprise? What should you protect in your enterprise? Why should you protect it? What should you protect? How should you protect it? And finally, did you do a good job protecting it? Did it cost you more than it should, or are you protecting from various failures that you thought you were protecting against? So knowing what disaster recovery is, knowing why it is important for your business, knowing what should be protected, how it should be protected, and finally verifying you did protect it to the degree that you are required to, will help you with sustaining your business over time and across various failures. So what is DR? DR, or disaster recovery capability, allows an enterprise to be resilient to a variety of catastrophic failures in the primary operating environment, recover from it without impact or without significant impact to its revenue, brand, or obligations to judicial and financial agencies. Disaster recovery capability allows a business to continue despite failures and adhere to various service level agreements that they have committed to internal customers or to external agencies. In order to understand what DR is, you also have to understand what DR is not. DR is typically not high availability. DR is typically not just backup and recovery. High availability tends to deal with process failure and continuing from those. Backup and recovery tends to deal with just data asset protection and be able to restore to a previous point in time, or recover from failures that was caused by a error in the system or human error. However, there are things that are changing. We have high-speed networks. The network glutton bandwidth and speeds have increased that have effectively made the world a small place. You have virtualizing technologies that allow you to replicate your processing across data centers, cloud computing, and you have advanced storage systems that allow you to protect your assets. You have to understand all the capabilities in today's technologies that allow you to protect your business in a manner that is commensurate with your revenue model, your image, and your reporting requirements. So, key question is, what is DR and how is it different than high availability or backup and recovery, and what alternatives you should use amongst the various techniques to continue your business. So, understanding high availability and backup and recovery is critical to knowing how you would implement DR. So, what differentiates backup and recovery and high availability from DR? Let's start with high availability. High availability is about service interruption and resumption of service with little or no downtime. It protects typically processes that your customers use to conduct the business, but it tends to share the same data. So, high availability typically does not protect your data. Backup and recovery allows you to protect your data, but generally does not allow you to continue your business in short order across failures. It's a data protection mechanism. Disaster recovery combines these techniques to secure your data and continue your business despite significant failures. We'll cover these failures and various errors at a later point in time, but for now it is important to understand where disaster recovery derives its methodologies from. It derives them from techniques that you use for securing your processes and securing your assets, the data assets. Disaster recovery is not about just process continuity. It is also about protecting your data assets. It is the foundation for business continuity. So if you go back to the definition of disaster recovery, you will see some key phrases that are significant. Disaster recovery is about catastrophic failure. It is about your primary operating environment. It is about protection of data. It is about business continuance. It is about your enterprise becoming resilient. So whenever we talk about backup and recovery or high availability, but more importantly during disaster recovery, you talk about when you sustain a failure and you are coming back up, you ask two critical questions. You ask, how much data did we lose? Meaning, are we able to operate, and do we know what is missing, or how we recover from it, how we talk to external agencies about what we lost and how to recover from it. And you also talk about how long is it going to take before we are up and running. These are key DR objectives that we'll cover a little later, but for now know that from the point of view of DR concept, knowing how much data you would lose, defining those, and how soon you'll be up and running is critical. And over time, to become resilient, you would have to know what type of failures that occurred and how did it impact your business and how you recovered from it and how you are organized to not allow those failures to occur or recover. So having understood what disaster recovery is or what it entails, you have to understand why is disaster recovery important, or rather why is it important for your enterprise. There are four typical reasons why it is important for you. It affects your revenue stream, it affects your image, it affects your brand, or you are providing time critical services, or you are a regulated agency through judicial or financial covenants, and inaccuracies in reporting might send some people to jail. So you have to avoid these costly errors that affects your revenue, your reputation, or you are required to adhere to covenants imposed by financial or judicial agencies. So in order to understand why it is important to you, you have to understand the metrics associated with disaster recovery. And coming back to why is disaster recovery important, what does it bring to you, the revenue, the brand, and reporting requirements. You have to understand the cost of implementing disaster recovery techniques to avoid service interruption or disruption to your business, and the cost that you would incur if they were interrupted. So disaster recovery techniques help you balance your revenue stream and your requirements against the cost of implementing such techniques that protects your business. Not all businesses are candidate for such exigencies, but it allows you to evaluate for your business whether you have to implement disaster recovery or not. Typically, disaster recovery is viewed as a technology problem. It is not. It is an organization problem. You have to understand what your business needs are. You understand what your core competency is. Business needs drives the capability that you have to build, and your competency and understanding of your capability drives the implementation. So coming back to the areas that get affected, the revenue, the brand, or reporting requirements will allow you to determine which of your applications should be protected. For example, the application that brings you revenue, order entry for example, or the application that affects your brand, your home page, the web page that people come to. It's the face of your enterprise in the internet. Or you have financial systems that you use to report to agencies such as the Security Exchange, or to other regulatory agencies, or to the banks from which you took loans, to ensure that your business and your reporting are accurate, and they are confident that they are accurate. And if they ask you, prove to us that you have done a good job or you have reported to us accurately, you are able to do that. So hence, knowing what your applications are relative to the key areas, your revenue stream, your image, your reputation, and your reporting requirements allows you to grade them and secure them appropriately, such that you can realize the benefits of disaster recovery planning. The common patterns that you see in disaster recovery are: you have a active cluster across small or large distances. You have active passive clusters that allows you to, in the event of interruption at the primary site, be able to bring it up on the secondary site and continue your business. You have databases protected with Oracle Data Guard, or applications protected with storage replications using consistency groups and other mechanisms. Or you have process continuity implemented through VM replication. So then it comes to, what is your best technology to use, and how would you know that you have done a good job choosing those? So having understood what patterns are typically used in DR, you have to choose a particular technique for the application that needs to be protected, or the data set that needs to be protected. In order to know which is the best technique to use, you have to understand the type of failures that can occur. There are 4 different failures that can occur. They are caused by human error, they are caused by software or hardware failures, they are caused by malicious practices. Somebody hacked into your system, for example, or there was a deletion that was done that should not have been done. Or it could be regional failures, a power outage or a flood, regional disaster or geographic events. These tend to cause 2 types of errors in general. They either cause you to lose data, or they cause a service interruption. So knowing these type of errors that happen and their impact in terms of loss of data or service interruption will allow you to choose the right technique to protect your applications and data. We had talked about when you have to protect your applications, the 2 key questions were: what did we lose, and how long is it going to take to rebuild and redo the operations that needs to be recovered and be up and running. In disaster recovery arena, they are governed by 2 objectives: the recovery point objective and the recovery time objective. Recovery point objective tells you how much data we lost or how much data we won't lose, and recovery time objective tells you how long will it be before you are able to get up and running and resume services. These 2 objectives, if managed well, will create the enterprise that is resilient to failures. Prevention and of an event, or preventing the recurrence of an event, is an important aspect a business should over time cultivate, so that they remain resilient to failures. And common errors that you tend to do in disaster recovery designing or planning is start bottom up. Tell me how I can protect this application, or tell me how I can protect the database using a storage technique or an application technique by replicating the data, or having the applications deployed in active situation without an understanding of the fundamentals of your business. Does it impact your revenue? Is it as important to protect it with the same degree as other applications in your enterprise? It's protecting your brand. Is the application's function reflecting the image that your company sees in the industry? Or is it relevant to your reporting? Would you protect your order entry system the same way that you would protect your business intelligence system in the event of a disaster recovery? You have to understand your enterprise within the context of catastrophic failures, not traditional failures where a server went down. You have to understand it in the context of the 4 areas we talked about: human errors, software or hardware failures, or malicious acts, or regional failures. Knowing these will allow you to design your system in a manner that your business can recover from failures and over time be resilient to these failures. So this leads to disaster recovery planning, and proper execution and understanding of your business over time will make your business resilient. Business disruption resiliency index is a key concept in knowing that your business is resilient to the failures. And if you want to look at it from a quadrant perspective, you have the revenue impact that can be sustained because of an event, or you have the failures that are occurring that you are able to recover from. Maturity of your business will dictate which of these failures and how many of these you are able to protect yourself from without an impact to your revenue stream, your brand, or your reporting requirements. Succeeding with DR requires you to understand your business, have realistic recovery point objectives, meaning how much data you're willing to lose and not have an impact to the business, or how soon you're able to bring your business back up and running despite failures. Knowledge of your business and the type of failures that your business will be subject to given where you are located is critical to understanding whether you will be able to successfully implement DR solutions or not, and in a cost-effective manner. Finally, we talked about the planning. Once you get into the implementation of the disaster recovery techniques, you have to continually test to see that the various failures you theorized as something that you would be subjected to is something that you can recover from, how soon, and with how much data loss that eventually affects your revenue, your brand, or your reporting requirements. So in summary, DR is an organization problem where you have to understand the concepts of DR, what of your business is relevant to be protected, how should you protect them, know that you have used the right techniques to protect them, and continually test so over time you become a resilient enterprise. Thank you.